A tall order for him to take on Spirit. What's the score of these players actually?
1-1. Spirit lost to Wayne.
Okay. And Aqueron? Who did he beat?
Aqueron beat... do you know this? I believe he beat DNS in a very close series. And he lost initially to Shadowin as well, so... The initial loss to Shadowin was also kind of pretty close, so he's been playing some close TVPs, but we haven't seen much, well, any TVT from him yet.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And a lot of Protoss players are kind of complaining about TVP right now, so there's that, and especially with Aqueron being as aggressive as he is. And even our wording in asking the question in itself should be a clue. Because we say, like, who did Spirit lose to, or you name who Spirit lost to, and then we ask who Aqueron beat, right? Which is... the opposite wording, because it's kind of surprising that both players are in the same position right now, with Spirit being the considerably stronger player, at least perceptually. So definitely an Aqueron to try to make some magic happen here.
Yep, absolutely. Aqueron in the upper right and Spirit in the lower left-hand side, as we do already have. A second Rax coming down, Cats. That's a fun way to play it.
It is a fun way to play it. It's the type of thing that can snowball multiple Reapers, right? You get the surprise element. Maybe, I don't know if you wait for your opponent to kind of engage onto you and then counterattack, or if you just go out in the middle of the map, and if you win the first Reaper fight, then maybe you can snowball too.
Yeah, I think it depends a lot about kind of what your opponent does. Obviously, do they give you the opportunity to do that even in TVT a lot of the time? Because a lot of the time the Reaper sits back, right? So usually if they sit back, you stack your 3 Reapers and then you go with 3, because obviously you don't want to lose one early. If they do, go on the map and you can get a catch 1-1 Reaper when you have 2 or so, that can obviously cascade a lot of the time into a very substantial advantage. So it's definitely one thing to think about as a CV just comes down from Spirit. He did go across the map to scout and got walled out of his opponent's base, so he might already be thinking a little bit of like, why were you so eager to make sure I didn't get in there? Why are you trying to hide a little bit? So maybe that's something that Spirit's thinking about. His initial Reaper just double-check some nearby proxy locations, but not going to find anything. So he'll just hold back a bit defensively. He did open double gas, which means Reaper Hellion production starts for him. And he should be kind of fine with this, obviously, as long as you just don't take a... as long as you don't get, like, super out-microed in a Reaper war.
Yeah, and he's setting up for Aqueron, right? He's setting up with the CC on the high ground. He's not making any add-ons, just going straight for the Hellion. So the timing window is going to be very narrow for Aqueron to make something happen where he's going to have bigger numbers than Spirit can put up. And in fact, it may not exist at all.
Yep. It may not, as do have just the Reapers of Aqueron still kind of sitting back at home. He's going to go to 5, which is, a little bit more of a commitment, right? So we continue to build those, not just going to be the initial 3 and quit. It is going to go all the way to 5. Keep on trying to set up with those, and, well, he's going to get the first Hellion a couple shots deep, so that's nice, but there's just a lot of Reapers in the Hellion as well here, and I really don't feel like we should go up this ramp back around. That was way too committed. Like, just no need to run that far up so quickly. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's at the same time it's difficult because you did make that second barracks. You want to get something out of it, but Spirit was just completely prepared for it. Like I said, not getting any add-ons whatsoever on his factory before producing 2 Hellions, right? Just kind of expecting that Aqueron could be doing something like this. So unfortunate for him. However, Spirit is going to jump into Aqueron's main. Maybe there's an opportunity for Aqueron to kill a Reaper or 2 here.
Yeah, gets the 1. I mean, now he gets a second. That first one just kind of got a bit too deep. The Hellion does get a kill on the SCV build in the CC to delay that slightly, which means that Spirit will stay a little bit ahead on his own expansion. And he's now going to start up a Banshee off the starport. No cloaking yet, but when he gets 100 gas, we'll see if he wants to start it, or if he's just somewhat happy building like a single Banshee just to kind of be like, surprise, are you ready for a Banshee at home? Because especially with this build, the factory's a bit later for Aqueron. It's possible that he kind of skips by something like a Cyclone. In this case, it's not going to happen, but like I say, definitely something of a possibility.
Yeah, for sure. Gotta cut some corners when you're behind. It could very well have been that Cyclone, and then that could have lost you the game. So it's a skill check that Aqueron will most likely pass, but the Banshee will help keep Spirit safe against this potential over-aggression from Aqueron once again as he looks to cross the map with 5 Reapers and a couple of Hellions, one looking to soak up an inexisting grenade or an inexisting mine shot. And now with the 2 Cyclones, it should be easy for Spirit to defend.
Yep, both those Cyclones just going to be coming out. The units of Aqueron turn away, back it up already. They just pull straight on back to the top side of the map. We have our Raven finishing on one side, Raven coming up from Spirit on the other. Siege tank also producing through. And Aqueron going to get a barracks to attack lab and just play some swapsies as he continues to establish back at home. So, all said and done, Spirit, you know, survives, does well, puts himself on a worker lead already. Faster third CC coming up from Spirit. What Aqueron will have, because of the initial stim, also is the fact that he's going to be able to go into that faster stim. So he'll have a little bit more bio control in this game. But yeah, this is hurting. The Reaper's a distraction, and the Raven Banshee shows up as a way to deal damage, and 9 SCVs go down.
Yeah, and the mules are ordered to attack of all units, sadly, so they will miss out on some mining time themselves. And the Banshee finally will get taken down by this lock-on, so that's something, but 9 SCVs falling before then definitely bodes well for Spirit's chances.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. This is a just a fantastic lead. 13 workers is a massive setup. It's like I said, the only real advantage Aqueron's going to roll with here is going to be that much faster stim. 2-Rax typically does have that, so he's going to be a little bit more active on the map, but the problem is Spirit's done so much that I feel like Spirit will be very well set up defensively. And what Aqueron's really looking for is maybe like a drop into a main where there's no defensive units, and he can utilize that stim in full force to bring him back into this. Because otherwise, this game really ain't going that well for him. Like, it really isn't heading in the right direction. So, yeah, a little worried for our Red Terran player here. Our Spanish player who is definitely the underdog and needs to try and do something right now, I feel like, with this stim pack finishing. But like I say, it might just be too tall of an order.
Yeah, I would almost like for him to just produce an extra 2 medevacs, given that he has already 2 tanks with a third in production, and just go for a Doom Drop and see what happens, right? Because with this setup, I mean, Spirit is very unlikely to be broken at the front, and loading up 2 medevacs isn't that great either if you only have 1 tank there or 2 tanks and very few amount of Marines. So difficult to imagine that Aqueron's gonna make much happen. He's making 2 Liberators, just hoping that Spirit completely skips the Vikings, but upon scanning him, he has to know that the air control won't be in his favor either, so the Liberators most likely will have to be used for harass instead, and Aqueron will drop a very delayed third on location, which means, yeah, he has to make a lot happen with those Liberators.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the Libs are just a case of he has no other real choice because his third, as you say, hasn't started yet. It's super late, so I think the Libs are very much so a case of just trying to do something, and, you know, maybe they can get into harass, maybe they can catch a portion of the army, maybe they can do something for you, as we do get the Cyclone kill there, costs you the chasing unit, but I still just don't believe, and I mean, we haven't still started the third base, we're still just pumping out units, and it does look as though Aqueron is just going to commit at some point to try and end this game. And I still stand by it. If he's going to commit at the front, it's a very good setup for Spirit, especially Spirit, who's building his own Libs now as well, so we'll also have that kind of defensive line completely buffered and strengthened before this attack happens.
Yeah, so Aqueron doing more or less what we expected here, using the Liberators to try and harass. There's going to be 2 Vikings waiting for the one at the north. The one in the south is very likely to find something, but actually gets spotted by a Marine as well, reroutes right away as it gets pushed back. The first one, the other one just gets taken down by Vikings in combination with turrets. So Spirit very well aware of his position, and this Liberator won't find anything. So Aqueron just empty-handed.
Empty-handed.
Okay, that's a lot of Marine.
Yeah, a lot of Marines. Anti-arm missiles go down. Obviously, Spirit's Marines are just not here because they were chasing down Libs and so on, but doesn't really matter. Spirit was just so well set up. He dealt with the aggression quickly enough. He could focus and get Marines back to this fight. Aqueron knew he had to do something. He recognized he was absolutely all in. Just didn't matter at the end of the day, right? Just yeah. Spirit was so
very
well set
tough.
up.
So well set up. I mean, so many tanks as well, right? Giving him a lot of buffer as well. Like shoot, things go south. I mean, there's so many tanks to break through, but Aqueron not with the perfect splits there to soak up the initial tank shots, and that was what was required of him. And on top of that, the anti-armor missile makes it so that the tanks are just super effective, extra effective against the Marines, where they're already in a favorable matchup. So tough luck for Aqueron.
Yep, tough luck and some tough love. We will head ourselves into a game number 2 in just a moment. Wait for this to get all hosted up, and we'll have ourselves a second map here. Spirit will be looking to improve to 2-1. We've obviously got Aqueron trying not to go 1-2. He would love to be 2-1 himself, but, you know, looking at the players, you know, 2-1 players right now in this group are Parstam, Shadone, Showtime, and Wayne. It does feel like, you know, if Spirit gets a win there, and one of Christiana/Geralt, Spirit getting a win, I would say is in a pretty good spot to win out and get into playoffs. And then obviously Aqueron going to 1-2 if the results continue the way that this series has started. Aqueron going to 1 and 2 would also potentially play against Drogo or DNS, Spats, and Battle B, and all those names feel very doable for Aqueron as well. So I feel like, if the expected results comes out of this, whichever opponent they draw in the next round, both players are going to have a very doable and a very fun, pretty even match. So yeah, it almost feels like this series is just kind of like a part of the process. Get players into the right place and then see what we get at the end. So maybe it is just kind of destined to be Spirit getting this victory, because that's kind of what we all expected. Spirit's been amazing lately, and especially TVT-wise. I've been super impressed by his TVT recently, so...
Yeah, absolutely. He's been making his way consistently up into that upper echelon of European players, so surprising even that he is in this position to begin with, and kind of surprising, but from the other end that Aqueron is here. So yeah, completely agreed. The expected result is Spirit, and it should be a 2-0, but let's see if Aqueron can have something to say about that.
Let's find out. Grezvan's our map. Obviously, game 1 was pretty quick and to the point. Maybe Aqueron wants to do something similar and just bring the aggression, bring the fire. He could maybe proxy racks if he really wanted to up the ante. We'll see what he does in the bottom right-hand corner. Our red Terran from the Platinum Heroes, Aqueron.
Rubén Villanueva.
Beautiful.
And on the top left-hand side, it is Spirit. Piotr, I don't dare.
Oh, I was waiting for it, Cats. I was so ready.
No chance.
He's like, the name's Piotr. Just Piotr.
Just Piotr.
Yeah, just Piotr. I don't think we go further than that.
Indeed. For Starlight Twinkle, pretty cool team name at least.
Yes, I feel like Starlight Twinkle is a team name that every person I've cast with this last 2 weeks has mentioned. Everyone's like, it's a cool name.
Yeah.
Not wrong.
It is pretty cool. It is pretty cool. But yeah, like my mind has been stuck on that Forjumi game as well. The
Yeah.
Forjumi spats.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it so much.
Hit me.
I mean, yeah, well, I guess the early game is dead, but I was thinking about the base trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I was thinking, okay, like the win condition was clearly to kill the cannons,
Yeah.
and then to kill the observer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Spats should have never let him kill the cannons. The army should have been in front, right?
Yes.
So that was, I think, number one hurdle that Forjumi overcomes. But then the second hurdle is maybe even more difficult because you have less stalkers and you have to attack into your opponent. So your opponent should have their observer in the back, right?
Yep.
So how do you do that? Because the observers are gonna spot each other, but by the time they spot each other, your opponent should be already in a better position to snipe your observer and with more stalkers. So I was thinking the only way that you can do it is by predicting where the observer would be, blinking in blind, and then moving the observer in. Your observer in, and then you stand a chance.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you blink in and the observer's not there, then you just lose the game instantly, and you look foolish too, right? So
It's like Spats
Impossible
forgot his
decision.
observer in the main base or something. You're like, no, what?
yeah, I mean that might even be the best play for Spats, is just to completely hide the observer until your opponent
until it's
exposes
needed.
themselves, because you have so much buffer.
Like
Yeah,
dead air space until it's absolutely necessary or something.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's,
But yeah, I was thinking about it because it was such a tall order, right? It came so close, and yeah, it was so different.
It really
We're
was.
in a different series now, I guess. Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. I really didn't believe, and then I started believing at the very last second, it felt like.
This build wasn't super exciting anyways. Main difference between the two is a reactor instead of a second Reaper from Spirit. So now he will get a bit of an extra Reaper Hellion startup. So do you imagine this is a bit of a factor that he can maybe utilize, and we'll see if he can take an edge with what will be a bit more of an aggressive start. You see the Widow Mine from Aqueron, that can obviously help you defend against this, and both players will be heading pretty swiftly into the starport as well, continuing to their next stage of the game.
Yeah. So yeah, nothing too crazy or interesting here. Widow Mine will be out for Aqueron soon, so he's actually playing a little bit of a defensive stance, right? Like just maybe playing a little bit of a macro game and seeing how that bodes for him. But I mean, Spirit is so well practiced and so proficient at the macro games. Difficult to imagine he will be, beatable for Aqueron.
I actually don't know if Spirit lets Aqueron get into a macro game, because I think if Spirit gets off to just like a decent start, I think Spirit's got some very deadly pushes, which aren't all in or anything like Aqueron was last time, but just really good ways to pressure heavily while going up to 3 bases. And the way he's been playing those games lately, I'd be really surprised if Aqueron could hold it off. Like, just because Spirit's been so good with that style. So very, very excited to see if we get that and see that opportunity to arise. But for the moment, Aqueron just building a little Banshee. I mean, the Banshee for Spirit did well last game. Time for revenge.
Time for revenge indeed. Aqueron, a player who hasn't really been that active in recent history. At some point, he was making a little bit of a splash and trying to improve actively, asking for advice to multiple players, asking for different perspectives on how to get better. And that was really commendable because his nature is to be very aggressive and to be somewhat creative and to you know, play on his opponent's side of the map and try to confuse him and create openings for himself. So I've never really seen him as a macro player, not a proficient one anyway. And that is why this sort of opener can be a little bit scary. But maybe if the Banshee gives him a little bit of leeway to work with, if he can do well enough, then maybe he can play from an advantageous position and have a chance.
Yeah, very plausible. Banshee currently just chilling to the upper right side of the main, and you have a Raven coming in from both players here. The Raven's already 2 out from Spirit, so the Banshee has delayed Raven production from Aqueron. And as we hit at the front, kind of a similar move to what Spirit did, right? Harass one location, get the Banshee in position on the other, perhaps. Just going to hit one Marine down at the front and now get the Banshee in, which there's a Cyclone very nearby, and this Banshee going to have to go running, and it's just going to commit for, what, 3 SCVs maybe? Now it hits the Cyclone. Not great.
Yeah, it could have been 3 SCVs if he targeted one of the ones in the gas as popping out of the gas before it could return, maybe. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, 2 SCVs is what he was always going to be guaranteed, but that's a great response from Spirit to get the Banshee down. Aqueron did go back to Raven production after that, so, you know, again, trying to play that kind of macro game, 2 Ravens against 2 Ravens. Similar setups as far as the third is concerned. And Spirit playing a little bit conservative might bode well for Aqueron, and he does have even worker counts, and he does have a little bit of a supply lead at the moment.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
No, I mean, Aqueron definitely has a couple of edges here. Third CC a little bit behind Spirits, but not by much, just morphing into an orbital now. And yeah, I mean, Spirit does have 1 started, so that's an advantage. Aqueron does not even have engineering base, so that's actually a pretty sizable lead. Upgrades obviously don't matter so much if you're running headfirst into tanks, but if you do get some of those fights where Marines need a buffer for a long time, or it's just Marine on Marine, upgrades are massive in a TVT. Marine upgrades, especially just because Marines hit so often, the effect of that upgrade really becomes seen very quickly. So yeah, the 1-1 from Spirit might be a pretty big deal, and it's not like Aqueron is doing something that requires him to skip over +1/+1. It's not like he's just going to hit a timing sometime soon. Like, he's setting up for a longer game, so I would have liked to see those engineering bases. I don't think they needed to be so late.
Yeah, and there they are, but I think that's just a byproduct of how this early game has gone. Like, Aqueron tried a couple of things that didn't work out, so he had to cut a few corners to be as close in supply and in worker counts, etc., as Spirit is. So that is the advantage manifest for Spirit, is those upgrades, and that kind of puts Aqueron on a little bit of a timer where, yeah, he's gonna start falling behind. He does start his upgrades now. So now that creates a window where Spirit is going to be ahead in upgrades at every point, provided that he continues to upgrade as soon as he can. But yeah, definitely Aqueron a little bit on the back foot, but a very playable game still.
Yep, very playable. I mean, it's just a couple workers difference. In TVT, I am almost never really feeling as though someone's like down and out until like it's a super massive difference, because the defensive nature of TVT means that ending the game is extremely difficult to do. So even if someone has like a bit of an army lead or a bit of a work lead, it's very hard to take that and turn it into something that tangibly ends the game. So there's always a lot of comeback potential in TVT just by defending very well, making your own moves, taking your own positions. Because of course, you only have to defend until you're maxed out yourself, and then it's not like your opponent necessarily usually has a much better army than you. So yeah, there's a lot of turnaround potential in TVT. Because right now these 2 medevacs are not going to do a turnaround, even though they got spotted, and that's a massive mistake.
Huge Aqueron! That's a big pickoff, and look at the supply now.
Yeah, he just drops like 20 supply, and that's the difference in the game. It was pretty even otherwise, so suddenly Spirit, a little bit YOLO down the bottom. Again, when spotted, he should have really turned around. He just got a bit greedy, believed it wouldn't have mattered, and said, I'll get in there anyway. How close can you be with the defense? Well, he was that close with the defense, and you don't do anything with those medevacs, so yeah, put Spirit into an awkward spot. Spirit, who's also got way less Vikings, has been focusing way less on air control this game, And that's obviously a little bit rough because air control does a lot for you in TVT, so Aqueron not only takes an army supply lead, but potentially a little bit of a composition lead as well. Air control, again, just mattering that much in the matchup.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful from him. Spirit does start 2-2 very timely, so Aqueron is going to want to do the same thing if he wants to keep up and kind of scale as well as Spirit will be. But yeah, that was beautiful moves. I mean, defensively, Aqueron being the underdog, I don't expect is going to be the player that has those turrets set up in time, that is expecting this sort of thing, that has the Vikings, and that uses the Raven so proficiently as well, shutting down the medevacs right away, right? Like, that didn't do anything for Spirit. And if it was a clip of just that to show the game, it feels like it's Spirit who is getting desperate and Aqueron who is the more proficient macro player just for that moment, right? And now with a very good position here, what is the Viking count on Spirit, Sand?
Like 7 now. He's been building it up slowly the last few moments. He did start a build in, realizing it might be important. Loads up a double drop. If Aqueron cannot break through, stuff like double drops can be very powerful, right? Because you can really begin to punish your opponent for focusing so much on this side. We're going to stim up as the tanks are re-sieging. So we get to the high ground, a couple of matrixes, and this orbital just straight up drops. So Aqueron gets that kill. More important than ever that Spirit across the map does something with his own group of Marines and medevacs. He's going to have a pretty hefty warning of... Yeah, but look what Aqueron has. He has a lot too. Spirit's just going to jump on this army and then maybe try and take this into a much larger fight across the map too. But I think Aqueron's positioned himself wonderfully in this game. And right now it feels like Aqueron is... Well, obviously, not just feels like, he absolutely is 100% in a lead. Can he get this army home and rejoin with everything else? This is Spirit's moment. He's going to jump on all of the air units. A bit of a misplay from Aqueron going back and forth, and lost a little bit more than I would have liked there. That was just not really needed to be kind of so expensive. Now we will get joined back up with the rest of the army. Spirit is going to maybe be able to take a fight. He does have 2-2 against 1-1 cats.
Yeah, and the siege is late for Aqueron going up that ramp. Now Spirit is going to commit down the ramp. Only one tank remaining. And the spread is decent. The medevacs are going to help out. And with the Vikings landing, it looks like Spirit is going to break on through to the other side.
That is a perfect example of just how good upgrades can be in TVT, because not a single tank of Spirit fought that entire time. And obviously the tanks of Aqueron were just absent from the fight for the most part. There was one at the very end as Spirit is going to get counted through, and a lot of these tanks will go down, but overall it's still Spirit coming out heftily ahead, and he's just killed a bunch of SCVs as well, something that Aqueron did not do himself. Yes, Aqueron killed that base off, but Spirit's about to have a replacement, so we're getting back to 4 base versus 4 bases, and I do think that Spirit is putting himself into very good position. Man, what a few moments between these two. And from such a hopeful position, it just shows you just how good Spirit is, right? Because he really just turned this around and saw his opportunity and absolutely grasped it head first the moment he had it.
Yeah, capitalizing beautifully was Spirit. I mean, some very good glimmers of hope here for Aqueron. I mean, I was making noises. That was the unexpected for me, right? It's like I really didn't expect to make any noises in the series warning, I'm not gonna lie. But he had me making noises, so that's gonna be a good thing. I mean, Aqueron put up a great fight, but now Spirit in a very commanding position.
Aqueron's going to hold this position against the Liberators. Smart, because the couple of Vikings were working through it. So it's very good that he built up a couple new Vikings, because the Liberators otherwise would have done very well for Spirit. And it's very easy just to say, scrap Vikings, I need everything else right now. But yeah, they're just saving the game, because if Libs were set up right now and there's no Vikings, that is huge. A Spirit is likely going to lose this base again. He doesn't have a lot of defensive units, and it's a lot of Marines over here, so Spirit has to respect this. Orbital lifts off, a few Marines of his own going to run in. We will repair. We lose the Liberator. SCVs are dying, and Aqueron getting some damage himself.
Oh my god. I mean, and the supply has shifted back in his favor. Aqueron strikes back yet again. We'll scout the transition as well for Spirit into the double starport. And yeah, there is yet hope for the Spaniard.
There is indeed. Just another nice play, and this time it was really just showing the difference in this game was workers, and he just knocks down a whole bunch of workers. Spirit does keep on expanding, does try and keep on getting into more and more of these bases. A couple of shots coming off. Orbital Command has to lift off, and we're still not mining off this base at the moment. Aqueron gets his 2 medevacs back home, and well, Spirit just going to decide it's time to unsiege and back away, but maybe Aqueron can chase the medevacs, lift up, and get the tanks out of there, though. So yeah, we actually end up in a pretty
Spirit
even
with
game,
the
man.
disengage. Very, very cool. I mean, it's so surprising. Aqueron really hanging in there and punching back when he has to. This has been a treat of a game, surely. I mean, Spirit managing to disengage there, kind of like a little bit sad because it's what Aqueron wasn't able to do. That's how he lost his initial lead. And Spirit did make that 5th CC, right? Like Spirit, maybe the best player in the world at making command centers.
Yeah. He is, he's very good at the macro, and he's very good at just making sure there's always a CC on the way. So that's his advantage coming out of this, the 5 bases. And Aqueron will max a little sooner. He has got about a 35 army supply lead, pumping 16 Marines at a time. He's got 4 extra tanks as well, a couple Vikings to 1 Liberator in the skies. Spirit just making a lot of investments to the future still, not just in CCs, but, you know, Fusion Core, Second Armory. These are things which are all well and good until, you know, you die in the next few moments. But if he doesn't die in the next few moments and having, you know, ranged Liberators and a crap ton of Vikings, is going to become very difficult for Aqueron to break through. So just 2 very different approaches as this game comes out of this very aggressive stage. And we'll see which goes better. I think in general it should be Spirit favored, just based on the fact that I don't think Aqueron's going to suddenly show up and kill Spirit in the next minute or 2.
And yet that is his win condition, so I mean he better look for it. He has a much larger army. I wouldn't mind unsieging every tank. He's going to leave 1 at the natural, 1 at the 3rd, and 2 more are rallied towards the 3rd. This pays off if Spirit goes for a counter offense, but you know, it makes it so that his army is not that massive. Actually, this could pay off, as Spirit is kind of circling around. He will spot the army of Aqueron, and this might be the go time for Spirit. But if Aqueron can siege these 3 tanks, it will be a very expensive break on through. And actually, the scan misses the 3 tanks to the side. This is a good position for Aqueron to be very taxing on the side of Spirit. And on the other side, I mean, he stands a very good chance of doing a lot of damage with a massive army. Aqueron is taking Spirit to the aquarium right now.
He is, man. I mean, this was still a bit, I mean, messy all around. We are going to kill this base off, so base for a base. Spirit's defenses, they are just lacking a little bit. A few Vikings going to chase some Medivacs. Got to be careful and control those, because any amount of air control could be game-changing at this stage. Doesn't look like Spirit wants to go any further forward again. Aqueron just instantly into like 60 Marines. And if Spirit comes back, he's got to be careful, because this army of his is just tanks. There's no Marines to support it or anything. So he's just got to be very careful he doesn't get jumped on by Aqueron, as he'll likely lose this base. I don't think there's much you can really do to save that. Aqueron down a bunch of workers. It's still go time for him.
Yeah, 3 base against 3 base. Still Aqueron with the army lead. Supplies are very similar. Spirit, like you said, with a better economy, but not the real state to really exploit that for the time being. He has been reset. A couple of CCs have died, and you know, he's making another one, but that's not going to kick in for a while. So Aqueron still with pretty decent chances in this game. It all will come down potentially to one final fight. Spirit does have, I think, the better upgrade still. Oh, no, actually, they're 3-3 each. Spirit does have the extra upgrade for his tanks, which will help against Marines quite a bit. But otherwise, still anyone's game.
I do like the 8 Vikings, 6 Liberators. That's very very good at breaking tank lines, and so I think that goes a long way. But what Aqueron has is a crap ton of Marines. And Marines can obviously swarm, especially if Spirit is unsieged, not ready to fight. That's what Aqueron can do very well. Or if he just surrounds, and you could maybe argue there's potentially even a little bit too much air with how many Marines there are, depending on the position the fight happens in. It's rough right now, though. Like, if you get siege like this is difficult, as Spirit does not want to run into tanks, though. Like, that's what the
Aqueron had the scan, and Aqueron had the scan, and he looked at this army. When it's sieged, like you say, there's no chance in that engagement, right? If you catch it in the middle of the map and your army's in a position to jump it, go for it. Stim on forward and do everything. Aqueron's gonna go for a 360 surround MLG. Is it going to be enough? Yeah. I kind of doubt it. I would have much rather him gone for the base trade, but if it works, it works for Detroit. He can do it. Can he do it?
I feel like it would have been good to have already gone when Spirit has a few Marines and Libs kind of still pointing down the right side. Because now it feels like Spirit can put all of his attention to the other direction. Aqueron is waiting. He's unsieged. He's ready to go. And I see Spirit is going to get jumped on now.
He's going. Here we go. It's a 360 round. It's going to be enough. He has so much. Aqueron, the Liberators putting in the work that they can, but Aqueron will push on through yet again. I mean, the supply doesn't really tell the full story here. Spirit still in a very good position if he manages to defend this counterattack. But will he be able to? He has to get all of his tanks in position. It is not good enough to have him tucked in. He has to defend his expansions. That is the advantage that he holds right now.
Aqueron's going to try and reestablish a base on the right-hand side. Also moving through at the center. I mean, it's just The problem is the previous fight is because Spirit's out on the map, right? Now this fight is going to be Spirit defending locations, and Aqueron has to try and work Spirit out of position on those locations. It seems unlikely. Sensor Tower is tracking this army of Aqueron very well. Spirit jumped on a couple of tanks already, knowing the kind of things he needs to do to be in the best possible position to hold this. Given time, Spirit's mind with 40 more workers, he might not be able to save this forward base. I honestly don't know if he needs to save this forward base. You know, maybe just send, you know, a new CC to the top side or something like that. But he's just ahead anyways without this base, so I just don't feel like he needs to over-defend it if it's going to cost him, but he did get relocated in time, and now Libs are likely going to get at least one tank. The medevac lift is good, though. Good job from Aqueron. Good micro.
Yeah, very well done. I kind of wish that that base had gotten sieged from the low ground. I completely agree with you. It doesn't need to get saved. It's just a buffer of time for Spirit to get set up further back, but it also was kind of the base that Aqueron should have taken most easily. So maybe just sieging it from the low ground and denying the mining and sieging the planetary fortress would have been best. Instead, angles to where, you know, if he takes that base down in the fight, he can take another base and potentially close out the game. But now time heavily favoring Spirit, 65 workers to 23. If Aqueron can get remaxed, we are talking again. But Spirit is going to have an opening, and I think he understands my economy is much better. I am in a good position to trade. So he's going to move out on the map and try to make something happen. Aqueron has to take an excellent engagement to even just hang on to this game.
Yep. I mean, it's just rough, right? I mean, Spirit is nigh on maxed out. Aqueron is not. Aqueron had to go, and he stalled. He waited, he paused, and then Spirit can do little things like you drop over here, getting a few SCVs. I mean, that was literally a 20% of or more of Aqueron's economy right there with that one drop. Aqueron doesn't have a lot of economy, and Spirit sees this army over here, so he just lives, and obviously just chasing down a little bit too. Very confident play, and he clearly feels good right now. He clearly feels as though he can take some of these fights. He's looking for these fights. Aqueron still has more army supply, cats, do not get me wrong. We'll see if he can make the fight happen. It's still very air dominant from Spirit, so maybe again, the swarm of Marines, the 360 MLG no-scope surround can hit Spirit straight in the headshot. Like that.
That would be really nice, but no. Spirit's gonna get set up. That ain't it. Yeah, I mean, Aqueron is coming in from every which angle, but the tanks are very clumped up. There's a lot of them. A Marine buffer is luckily Aqueron not there. The Liberator's not yet sieged, but now they will get sieged to 8 here, and the tanks are not even gonna have time to get sieged on the side of Aqueron. This is the last fight of the game by the looks of it. What a fight that the Spaniard put up against the Polish Titan. But it has come to an end by the looks of it, and yeah, very enjoyable series overall. A pricing game from an Aqueron that looked like a top-tier competitor, quite honestly, in this game.
Yeah, no, really cool to see. I mean, obviously, Spirit brought it back initially, but Aqueron then, had the resolve to kind of get back into it himself, to fight back, and, really, again, make something of it, even though Spirit had seemingly undone all of the advantages Aqueron had, so... Great effort, Aqueron. Again, just so close to being so great. I've always felt like he's on that verge as a player and just shows moments of amazing and then just needs that little bit of a push, that little bit of a bump to just get on over the hurdle and to keep that, to get some more consistency. We do have our army of Aqueron moving around the left-hand side, and we do have Spirit about ready to come diving into position to defend. I mean, there's 4 tanks. About to be 5, but, I mean, there's just not enough from Aqueron, and you can see Spirit has too much here. It's a 2-0.